whole town's batty about Cincinnati. What a team, what a team, what a team. Each man and lady from 1 to 80, how they scream, how they scream, how they scream.
Hello, Reds fans, and welcome to another edition of We Love Our Team. Along with my partner, Randy Freaking, I'm Jack Greiner, and we're pleased today to welcome Bob Fregolle. Bob is a Detroit native who attended the University of Michigan. Following his graduation from the University of Michigan in 1979, Bob joined Procter & Gamble in their food sales division. Bob's career took him across the globe with stops in Warsaw, Frankfurt, Brussels, and Geneva. While in Guangzhou with his wife, Lori, and his 2 children, Bob established the Guangzhou first ever Little League baseball team for children ages 5 to 14. In the summer of 2015, Bob and his partner purchased the Daytona Tortugas. The Daytona Tortugas are a minor league professional baseball team based in Daytona Beach, Florida. They play in the Florida State League and are the Class Single A affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds of Major League Baseball. So, Bob, welcome to our show.
Great to be here, guys.
Hey, Bob, we'll get to your role with the Tortugas in a minute and how you bought that team and things like that. But you're from Detroit. Tell us a little bit about your baseball fandom. I'm assuming you grew up as a Detroit Tigers fan.
Yeah, still am. Grew up from the time I can remember playing baseball in the 60s, watching the Reds. That's after 15 years of living in Cincinnati. That's what it'll do to you. Watching the Tigers grow up. You know, back then the ball players lived in your neighborhoods, and so it was a really, really close knit kind of a baseball community. And but yeah, we had Denny McLain living in our neighborhood. He was 4 doors down.
Wow.
And in fact, I think he still owes my brother $30 for taking his trash out one summer. But ball players lived everywhere. Freehand was around the corner, and so you saw these ball players in around town and in stores. We'd be playing pickup ball one time. Freehand came out and played with us, in the neighborhood and one of the neighborhood fields. So. Yeah, great to be a Tiger fan growing up in the late 60s. And, of course, after the riots in 67, 68 was a real special year.
Oh, yeah. Have you read, Bob, the book, The Year of the Pitcher by a friend of ours, Sridhar Papu?
I have not.
It's great. I recommend it to you. It's about 68. And just when you were talking about the Tigers living in the neighborhoods, there's a part of the book where they just really talk about, the city kind of burning in the riots and, these Tiger players kind of in the midst of, I think Mickey Lolich, I think, was part of the National Guard that had to deal with the,
right.
I think he had to leave the team at one point. Yeah.
Yeah. Lolich won 3 games in that series, 3 complete games. McLain won 1. We had Earl Wilson, who was probably a better home run hitter than he was a pitcher. Joe Sparma. It was a pretty good lineup, and we were going against the Bob Gibson in that series, and nobody gave us much hope. But that was really an electric time to be a Tigers fan.
Well, I think a lot of Reds fans our age feel a little connection to the Tigers because of Sparky Anderson. As I'm sure most of our listeners know, Sparky managed in Detroit after he was fired by the aptly named Dick Wagner in 1978. So are you a Sparky fan, Bob?
Yeah, growing up in an American League city, we didn't follow the National League really at all. So when Sparky showed up in Detroit, as a young kid, I had no clue that he had managed in Cincinnati. We just thought he was ours. And he won a ton of games. He won over 1,300 games with the Tigers, which, was easily a lot more than he had won with the Reds. So anyway, as kids, we didn't know. And so Sparky was a Tiger. And I remember how crushed we were when he went into the hall wearing a Cincinnati Reds hat. We thought, wait a second. He won some titles with us too, but I guess it was the big red machine era that you could never get him away from. So,
well, it's funny. You make a good point. I think he managed the Tigers maybe twice as long as he managed the Reds. I mean, he started managing the Tigers, I think, in '79, I think,
yeah.
and was there for I mean, he was with the Reds for like 8 seasons, and I think he was with the Tigers close to 15 or 16. It's funny. I was at the his induction in Cooperstown. I went up. My two boys and I went up for the ceremony, and he went in with Carlton Fisk, and Fisk played for the White Sox longer than he played for the Red Sox. But I think he went in as a Red Sox, and so I guess it's just where you are and when. Sparky probably. Sparky always seemed like an old man. I mean, I think when he got the Reds job, he was 36, and he still had this bearing. And I think he was, he's prematurely gray. But I think when he got to the Tigers, finally, he had sort of aged into his appearance a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like a Major League Baseball manager, though, didn't he? I mean,
yeah.
And he talked like one too. He had the short, quippy kind of answers to things, and he was a real manager's manager. He's also a player's manager. I mean, people love playing for him.
Bob, was that one of your favorite Tigers teams, 84? I'm sure the 68 team that we talked about was. And then you had the 84 Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who wins a World Series becomes a favorite team, and you can pretty much, if you're in baseball, you can pretty much, remember exactly who was playing what position and where and when. I have to say, I think the 68 team, though, will always be my favorite Tigers team. And because I was 11 years old, I went to bed at night. My mom and dad, thought I was asleep, and I had the little transistor radio under my pillow, listening to Hockey Night in Canada in the winter and Tiger baseball in the summer. So I remember, at school during the series, I mean, they were playing. We stopped school. We stopped everything we were doing to watch that series on TV. I remember playing baseball one day, and somebody brought a TV out, put it on the hood of their car, tied it to their battery, and we stopped the game to watch the series. So,
well, the Tigers had a hell of a run last year.
Yeah, I mean, a surprising run, and they did it on the cheap, so to speak. I think their opening day roster salary was somewhere less than $40 million for the whole team. So
that's incredible.
That's hard to do these days, almost impossible.
Yeah, that is. It's so funny. I love looking at YouTube of like the '68 World Series, and just thinking about those games were all in the afternoon. Sometimes if we were lucky, the teacher would maybe bring in a TV and let us watch. I think in 1970 they were still afternoon games when the Reds went. But I also love to look in the stands and all the men in suits and ties and stuff. It's just hilarious.
We used to when I first started with P&G in 79, 80, 81, when I became a manager, we would go to opening day in our suits and ties. And one year, very famously, and it was a legit, like our district manager took us. But one year, very famously, ended up on the front of the Detroit News, over a guy, playing hooky, watching the game. But
hey, enough about the Tigers, Bob. How about did you evolve into a Reds fan after you moved to Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, we're diehard Reds fans. My kids, both Hannah and Bobby, are huge Reds fans. We are co-season ticket holders now for almost 15 years. I get to 25 to 30 Reds games a year. So and of course, being connected with the Tortugas makes that a little bit even more special. But Yeah, I mean, I could watch a baseball game every day for the rest of my life and just be happy as a clam.
We had your friend George Vincent on in an earlier episode, and he's kind of gone through the same evolution as you. He has an amazing memory of the Tigers, but he is definitely there's room in your hearts. It sounds like for both teams. I think.
Oh, I adopted the Reds back in 1979 when I started with P&G, and it's just grown. You know, whenever I was in town from out of town during baseball season, I was down at a baseball game here in Cincinnati. So, yeah, it's we love the Reds, love every bit about the Castellini family and the kind of culture that they've created. And it's been fun to watch, and they're a fun team to watch now with the youth movement they're going through.
Yeah. Any particular Reds memories that stand out for you, or favorite players along the years?
Yeah, I think probably the memory was we were at the game when Aroldis Chapman made his debut.
Oh.
And that was magical. The vibe, I mean, it was an MLS soccer game on steroids. I mean, the music was loud, the lights were flickering. He ran in from the outfield and then proceeded to throw lights out. We'll never forget that. And that was a special night. I think also Jay Bruce hit some really timely home runs. I think he clinched it in 2010, I think, in a walk-off.
Yeah.
That was a crazy moment. He won an opening day one year. So yeah, I think those two, that walk-off and Aroldis Chapman, were probably the two best memories. And even guys like De La Cruz, I mean, he comes up and makes an impact from day one, and before you know it, he's stealing second, stealing third, stealing home in one inning.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Scooter Gennett hitting 4 home runs in a game. We were not at that game. We were watching it on TV, but that was really special.
Randy, were you at the Chapman debut game?
I was, and I was also at the Jay Bruce game. But hey, Bob, Jack mentioned earlier that while you were over in China, you started a little league team of some sort in China. I didn't know that the Chinese played baseball.
Well, in fact, they do. They have a professional baseball league. As you know, most big countries around the world have a pro or semi-pro league. Random places like Belgium but in my case, we were living in Geneva, Switzerland, and I was offered China, and I accepted it without even going there. We had traveled there, so I knew what we were getting into. And but my first question was, do they have youth baseball? It's honest to goodness first question, because I had been coaching my kids from the time they were 4 or 5 years old all the way up, and I wanted them to continue to play. And the answer was no. So I ordered 2 sets of youth equipment from a place out of Texas, if I remember, shipped it to Geneva, put it in our container, and arrived in Guangzhou ready to just play baseball on a Saturday on a pickup basis. And as I was moving around the expat community talking about, who wanted to play ball, there was enough interest that I thought, well, shoot, maybe we'll just start a league. And in 2000, I started the Guangzhou Youth Baseball League. We had
were those mostly expats, kids, or did you recruit some of the locals?
Yeah, no, all expats, but expats from all countries. Mm-hmm. Because in international environments for kids and sports, most of these international schools don't have a developed sports program. They might have basketball, but they surely don't have baseball. And so I started this league. I recruited coaches. I had to find bats and bases and baseballs and uniforms. I had to find a field. I used my secretary. My secretary is local. She was my interpreter. And we started in 2000 with 94 kids across three
That's
age
fantastic.
groups. Yeah, and it was a cow pasture. I mean, it made my high school ball field look like, Great American Ballpark. But yeah, we had 94 kids the first year. We had about 180 or so the second year, and by the third year, we had over 300.
Oh my goodness! Wow. What did you do for umpires? I mean, Randy's an umpire, so I figure he's going to want to know the answer
That's
to that
right.
question.
Randy would have umped for us. I mean, this was all volunteer. The second year we played out at the Olympic training complex for South China. We had an in with somebody in Beijing and the government, and then SARS hit our third year, and everything was shut down, and we had to find a place to play. So I had made friends with a former major leaguer who was there consulting China baseball, and he got us into the professional baseball complex in downtown Guangzhou, which was spectacular. And yeah, so it was still going until SARS. I mean, it ran long after I left, and then SARS shut everything down, and I don't think they've gotten it back up, but it's shifted over from people like me running it to the American Chamber of Commerce ran it in Guangzhou.
We always hear about the Japan players, and there's been a few Korea players make it to the big leagues, but China has a professional baseball league.
They do. There's last I knew there were 6 teams in the China Baseball League, and a couple of the kids came out and helped us as coaches. They they can play baseball. They just haven't had the experience. Taiwan has got. I mean, that's a totally different animal, but Taiwan produces some really good baseball talent, and China can. It's small ball. They can play it pretty well. It's not, you don't need to be a giant to play well. And so I think you'll see more Chinese coming up.
Huh.
Yeah.
Are there any in the major leagues or any of the professional baseball that you know of in the States?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that might be a good pipeline for you with the Tortugas. You have an in China.
I think the Reds have a Taiwanese player, Sheng, last name Sheng, I think, and I think he'll be playing with the Tortugas this year. He played mostly in the Complex League last summer and the fall, and I think he'll be with us this year. It'll be great.
Tell us how you got involved with the Tortugas.
Well, that was started in. When we moved back in 2009, we were gone 18 years. We lived overseas for 18 years. And we moved back in 2009, and I knew I wanted to get into baseball somehow when I retired. And I knew I was going to retire in 5 years. So I called a broker. There's a big broker that matches buyers and sellers. I introduced myself. I said, I'm going to be in the game in 5 years. Just don't forget me. And about every 6 months, I would call and say, hey, remember me? And in November of 2013, when my retirement was announced, I called the broker and said, game on. And I had been looking at buying the Florence Freedom, the Florence Yalls.
Yeah.
And I had put together a little bit of a network of baseball people, and they said, hey, if you can, we advise you to go the affiliated route. There's more access to the big leagues in New York, et cetera. So I took that advice. The broker started running by opportunities for me across the country, and Daytona Beach came along with a great guy that was putting it together out of Nashville, and it seemed like the right fit. I could get there in the morning. It has a great history. It's got not only baseball history, but American history with Jackie breaking the barrier in Daytona Beach. So it was a good fit. And we started negotiating for the team in 2014. They were the Cubs. The Cubs had been there for over 20 years. And then the Cubs decided to move to Myrtle Beach, and the Reds decided to move from Bakersfield, California, their high A team at the time, to Daytona Beach, and the Fregolle family went crazy. I mean, and so very luckily, the Reds moved to Daytona Beach, and we became the affiliate in 15. So this is our 10th anniversary in 2025.
Ballpark, a great minor league ballpark. I was there with my son. He was playing for Xavier back in I want to say like 2009, and they took one of those spring trips, and we spent a week playing games in Jackie Robinson Stadium in Daytona Beach. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's magical. It's the original. I mean, they've been playing on that island. We play on an island, on a Causeway Island. They've been playing there since 1914. It's the third oldest professional baseball active field in the country behind Fenway and Wrigley. Wrigley opened the same month we did in 14. And then hurricanes knocked a bunch of things down over the decades, and the current grandstands were built in 1930. And somewhere along the lines, our manual scoreboard got built out there in left field, still one of only three in baseball today, Wrigley and Fenway. And it's a magical place. It's still, you've got some obstructed view seats and big fans that keep you cool, and bleachers down the third base line, and it's just a magical place.
Were they the Tortugas when you bought them? I'm curious about the name. I know it's a Caribbean island, the Tortuga Island, I think, but I think it's also turtles.
Yes, turtle is the genesis of our name. When we were negotiating for the team, it was the Cubs, and then the Cubs left, and I wish I could take credit for that brand, but I can't. The previous owner had a team to run because he hadn't sold it yet, and they hired Studio Simon out of, I think, Louisville, and they came up with the name Tortuga. It was an immediate hit. There are some 650 nesting turtles in Daytona Beach, and so it was an homage to them. And boy, it was rebrand of the year in 15, cap of the year in minor league baseball in 15. So it's just you can see the logo here. I mean, you've got Sheldon, kind of the turtle with a bat in his hand and an attitude. And
and Sheldon is your mascot?
Sheldon is our mascot. We introduced a love interest a few years ago, Shelley. By the way, it's Sheldon with two L's. And they were going to get married, and then COVID hit. But stay tuned for this year. I mean, wedding bells may be ringing in Daytona Beach later this year.
That's awesome. You know, I love some minor league team names. The Lansing Lugnuts is a favorite. There's the Augusta Green Jackets. I mean, are there any others that you know of, Bob, that you like?
Yeah, check out the Lake Elsinore Storm. Clearly the coolest hat you've ever seen on a baseball player. It's two beady eyes on a black background. I mean, you gotta love the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Yeah.
I guess they've got a raccoon problem in Madison, Alabama, but the Trash Pandas are a favorite. You got to love the Durham Bulls, of course. The Fort Myers Mighty Muscles, they're in our league down in Fort Myers, Florida. I like the Chihuahuas out in El Paso, largely because it's just such a really well-run team. There's so many, like the Dayton Dragons. The Dragons are one of the best-run minor league teams in the country out of the 120 that we've got. Yeah. And the Dragons logo and what they do up there is just special.
Where's Lake Elsinore? Where is Lake Elsinore?
California.
Oh, it's in California. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Bob, how does that work? You bought the team. Are you responsible for stocking the players? Do you scout them, or are those supplied by the Reds, basically?
Yeah, the model in minor league baseball has existed this way forever. And I'm not talking about independent ball, but affiliated minor league ball is everything that has to do with the players, player development, coaching, scouting, nutrition, training, everything is paid for by the parent club, and we run the business. So it's a bit like a theater is the analogy I use. Everything from the orchestra down through the players and what act is going to be played, and what the theme and whatever is all the major league team, and we run the theater. So our revenue streams are tickets, food and beverage, sponsorship and corporate partnership, and swag, merchandise.
Okay.
And it works in a very symbiotic way. Our job is to make sure that playing field and the conditions are safe for the ball players, and safe as well and enjoyable for the fans.
Hey, I wanted to talk a little bit. You mentioned the park where the Tortugas play, but I know there's some history associated with that, and I just wonder if you can tell us a little bit about that. And I think is there some things going on right now in terms of designation or historical designation or something?
Yeah, there sure are. So as I said, we started in 1914. There was a baseball field on an island. Over the years, the island's grown a little bit. And professional baseball started there in 1920 with the Florida State League. So the Florida State League's been around a little over 100 years, as we have. In 1930, the current grandstands were built. Back then, of course, it was a segregated situation, blacks and whites. In the summer, late or fall of 1945, the Brooklyn Dodgers GM, Branch Rickey, signed Jackie Robinson out of UCLA and the Army, but out of UCLA to play baseball. And he was assigned to play with the Montreal Royals, which would have then been the AAA club of the Brooklyn Dodgers. And they were doing spring training for 1 year outside of Vero Beach. He started in Sanford, Florida. But Sanford wouldn't let Jackie play. So they moved the Montreal Royals spring training to Daytona Beach in 1946.
Okay.
And that wasn't easy either. But on March 17th, 1946, thanks to a woman by the name of Mary McLeod Bethune of Bethune-Cookman University fame, she convinced the commission, the city council in Daytona Beach, to allow Jackie to play. And Daytona was a bit more progressive, even in a segregated Florida and a segregated South. But Mary McLeod Bethune won the day, and Jackie, on March 17, 1946, stepped up to the plate at our ballpark and broke the modern-day color barrier. He did it in an inter-squad game against the Brooklyn Dodgers. And, of course, the rest is history. He played that summer with the Montreal Royals up in Montreal. And then the year later came up with the Dodgers and broke the major league barrier. So, yeah, a lot of history. We take it very seriously. We're stewards of that legacy. The ballpark's named Jackie Robinson Ballpark now. We have an outdoor museum to Jackie, kind of takes you through his life. Where you mentioned about what's going on in the designation. So we have always, I think since 1990, been a National Register of Historic Places site. But Representative Michael Waltz, who is our representative, came to the ballpark a couple years ago and said this needs to be elevated, and went back and started working on a bill that would make Jackie Robinson Ballpark a National Historic Landmark.
Wow.
He got a Democrat co-sponsor, Soto, and then got Senator Rubio behind it. And it was passed into law just before Christmas this year, designating Jackie Robinson Ballpark as a national commemorative site. President Biden signed it into law, which kicks off a 2-year process by the Park Service to verify or validate that it deserves national landmark status. And we expect that to happen. just not only from a baseball standpoint, but Jackie was so involved in civil rights.
Sure.
And there are many that say that moment really kicked off with earnest the civil rights movement that carried through then into the 60s, and the rest is history there. So we're really excited. There's a buzz in Daytona Beach around that like we've not seen in some years.
That's fair. So, hey, was any part of the movie 42? Did they use the park to did they film any part of that there?
They didn't.
They did not.
They didn't. But there's about a 5-minute bit in there about Daytona Beach, but not filmed at the Jack, as we call it in Daytona Beach. One other thing that's going on. We were on the list to be contracted in 2019 and into 2020, one of the 40 teams that lost their affiliation. And it's a long story, but I was able to get the Reds, with help from my partners and the city, to commit to staying if the city would renovate the player facilities at a minimum, because the player facilities were quite old. Long story short, they did. We signed a 20-year plus lease about a year and a half ago, and they're just now breaking ground on a $30+ million, probably over $40 million renovation to the ballpark. First phase will be done in time for the 26th season, and that is all new player facilities, so major league level quality player facilities, locker rooms, clubhouses, commissaries. And then phase 2, about a year later, will be new fan amenities. So there's a terrific amount of energy, positive energy going on in Daytona Beach around baseball and Jackie Robinson Ballpark.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, I know Aristides Aquino played in Daytona Beach, I think in 2016. How was that experience? Did you give him any hitting instruction?
Yeah. Well, he hit 2 home runs in his first game in Daytona Beach that are still going. He hit 2 home runs in his opening game with us that were laser shots over left center field. And the talk at the time was nobody had ever seen 2 balls hit harder by anybody in their careers than those 2 home runs by Aristides. The other thing about Aristides is, and it took him a whole season to figure this out, opposing teams, you could not run on him. I think he led the league that year with outfield assists and was well over 20.
Wow.
And yet coaches continued to try to take third on singles to right field, and that was a mistake. He had a laser arm.
Huh.
He was fun.
Any other Tortugas that are currently on the Reds roster or former Tortugas?
A ton. So Ellie played 50 games with us 3 years ago. We've got Tyler Stevenson, TJ Friedel, TJ Antone. Let's see, who else? Stuart Fairchild, Reese Hines, Andrew Abbott. Somewhere around 40-ish% of the Reds played at some point down in Daytona.
How exciting was it to have Ellie down there for just 50 games?
Yeah, he was electric, and everybody. I think he hit 259, so it's not like he ripped the cover off the ball, but he just made all the plays that you would expect that he would make, practically running out to center field and left field.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that needs to be done all the time, but anyway, he was surely a lot of fun. And everybody knew he had a pretty high ceiling.
Yeah. So did Edwin Arroyo, did he come through?
Edwin Arroyo did come through. I mean, we'll see him up at the bigs not too long. Cam Collier came through, and he's also destined this year or next, I'm sure, to be up with the big league club. Sammy Stafura, I think number 3-2 draft pick a couple of years ago. Also, really, really long on a lot of really good infielders, as you guys know.
Yeah.
And I really the Reds were really smart when they saw all of the changes to the game, bigger bases, pitch clock, et cetera, just a few years ago. They started, it was a strategic choice. They started scouting and drafting athletes that could play multiple positions, that had speed, and it's really paid off for them. And so we've just had a slew of great athletes come through. Even there's a big catcher that I love. His name's Alfredo Duno. He's going to be, I think, a star in the big leagues. And he's just a big, strong Tyler Stevenson kind of a guy.
Okay.
But yeah, those are some of the really exciting younger players coming in.
Brantley said he thought Arroyo was probably the best fielder of the whole bunch of all of them, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. We got him on a trade, and his family's from Orlando. I remember sticking around after the game. He had just arrived, and we were talking to this young woman and asked her what she was hanging around for. This was after the game, and she said, "Well, I'm going to go see Edwin Arroyo. He should be coming out of the dugout or the clubhouse." And we said, "So, what are you, his girlfriend?" She said, "No, I'm his mother."
That made her feel good. I'm sure.
Yeah, and they loved it because he was playing on the West Coast, and now he's playing in Daytona Beach. And I think that family's from Orlando, so we saw a lot of them. Really exciting, young, good kid. That's the other thing about the Reds. They scout and draft good-hearted kids, with great character. It's really fun to be around them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is TJ Antone as good a guy as he seems? Everything I've seen of that guy, he just seems like I'm just rooting for him. His odds of coming back, I'm sure, are very uphill, but I would love for good things to happen for that guy.
Yeah, he is clearly of great character, just a wonderful guy. I was talking to him this week just to see how his rehab's going. Tyler Stevenson, they don't get any better than a Tyler Stevenson. He's just that's what the Reds do. They purposely draft good people. Oh, by the way, they're really good ball players too.
Hey, Bob, I'm thinking about moving to Daytona Beach. I noticed your season ticket package for field level box seats are like $795. That's a little bit less expensive than the Reds charge. And I'm also wondering, what kind of promotions do you do? Minor league games are kind of famous for entertaining the fans.
Yes. Well, yeah, everything pretty much starts in the minors and bubbles up, right? And we test, game enhancements and promotion enhancements. You can still get a ticket for $6 to come to a game. Our general admission season ticket is $6. And so it's not going to cost a family of four an arm and a leg to come to a game. And it's really the credo of minor league baseball, which is affordable family entertainment and fun. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy to do because costs keep going up and we don't want to cheapen the product. But yeah, it's still a very affordable place to catch a ball game. And now with all the enhancements to the game, they go pretty quickly, 2.5 hours. The promotions, it's what's fun about the minor leagues is that you've got quite a bit more leeway. You still only have 2.5 minutes between innings, so you've got to be quick. But we've enjoyed our share of success. The number one promotion that stands out is a promotion we did with Bob Ross, not with him, but of him. I didn't know Bob Ross was from Daytona Beach.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
And I didn't even know who Bob Ross was. But I do now. We had a Bob Ross night 7 or 8 years ago, and it was an all-inclusive promotion around Bob Ross, the painter. We had a painting class. We had lookalikes. People were coming with Bob Ross froze. We planted a little tree. We had a Bob Ross 5K. and it won that whole promotion, won promotion of the year, what we call the Golden Bobblehead. And we're going to bring it back for our 10th anniversary, plant another tree, have another painting class. But yeah, you have a lot of fun. We had it last year. We had, and we'll do it again this year, a fan favorite collect 'em all bobblehead series. So fans get to vote on who their favorite Tortugas were of the first 10 years.
Oh, wow.
That's fun. We get calls from all over the country on those bobbleheads and say, sorry, you got to come to a game to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We have a lot of fun in between innings, and MC's a really important role for us. We put them on the field, get the kids involved. Don't want to embarrass anybody, but we have a lot of fun with the kids.
And Jack wants to come down and do an audition for the national anthem.
I'm ready, man.
Maybe play his guitar and sing the national anthem. Jack, you want to? Hey, Jack, you want to do an audition right now for Bob?
Well, I haven't. I should have learned the chords to the national anthem, but I don't. I don't have them yet. But how's that going? So you get auditions, and how's that promotion work?
We do auditions, and Jack, I know somebody who knows somebody. If you can get those chords straight, you'll be out in front of the Tortuga logo doing the national anthem. Our opening weekend this season, we're going to have the 3 high schools in Daytona Beach, their marching band each night do a national anthem for us. And then the Bethune-Cookman choir or choral choir is going to sing on Jackie Robinson.
Oh,
night,
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Which is going to be great. I mean, so you're welcome anytime, Jack.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
You would fill that place up, Bob. I'm telling you. They hear Jack Greiner's coming down. Oh my God, there'd be plane loads coming down from Cincinnati.
I would do a tribute to Jose Feliciano, who played who there was a little controversy, right, in the '68 World Series. You remember that, Bob?
I don't.
Oh yeah. Jose Feliciano played before one of the games at the World Series, and he did this sort of Latin version of the national anthem, old jazzy, and I mean, people's heads exploded. I mean, my dad's included.
I'll Google it.
You should check it out on YouTube. It's pretty great. Well, Bob, listen, this has been so much fun. We really would urge our listeners, whether in Daytona or not, make a trip to the ballpark. And it's affordable entertainment in a historical venue. So, I mean, what else can you? And you get to see the future Reds coming through. So,
with the new construction, the city's going to build a Jackie Robinson museum. And the foundation has already given us at least a tip that they're interested in helping us curate it. So awesome. It'll be a real special addition to a rather historic, special place.
Yeah. Have you met Rachel Robinson?
I have not yet.
Yeah. Well, she's an amazing woman, man. I'll tell you what. Yeah. I hope you get the opportunity. I think that would be really special. So
yeah, everyone's welcome. I mean, Google us, read up about the history. We're at www.daytonatortugas.com. You can get us online through MLB or MILB.com as well. And everybody's welcome. It's a fun place to watch a game.
Great. Well, Bob, thank you very much, man. We appreciate it, and we'll. I hope I'm going to try to get down there one of these days and say hello.
That'll be great.
All right.
You guys are welcome. Thank you,
so
Randy.
Right.
Thank you, Jack.
Give it up. Give it up for Bob Fregolle. And the Daytona Beach Tortugas. Settle down, everybody.
Sheldon.
The whole town's batting about Cincinnati. What a team, what a team, what a team. Each man and lady from 1 to 80, how they scream, how they scream, how they scream.